The Chernobyl ant was invented on the Green River in Utah, presumably to mimic a cricket or a grasshopper. It's way bigger than an actual ant. Its name intimates some sort of radiation-induced enlargement, like Bruce Banner's stupendous transformation. And it seems to have inaugurated a strange tradition of naming large terrestrial patterns ants. Amy's ant added an elk hair wing and some more foam to the Chernobyl-style pattern. But why Amy? Maybe Amy didn't know anything about ants. Maybe she too was fascinated with the comic book powers of radiation. Perhaps Amy was a nuclear physicist. The chubby Chernobyl, probably the most ubiquitous Western trout pattern today, followed its simpler progenitor by adding flash and two big polyarn wings. I'm not sure that chubby is very descriptive. Bulky or tall is probably better, but of course anybody who's read Kripke knows that's not how naming works, and that alliterative allure is hard to resist. I only learned about the bionic ant on this trip, when Ben used the big one to search the grass edges along the undercut banks of the river. I even managed to hook a riser in the middle of the river on one. Of these four, quote, ant patterns, this one looks most representative in terms of shape and profile, but again, it's typically fished in distinctly non-ant sizes like 10s and 12s. Bionic is a portmanteau, made from the words biological and electronic, but I couldn't find one bit of circuitry in the bionic ant that I fished. And don't get me started on the Turk tarantula or the zoo cougar. While most of our fish were caught on parachute-style mayfly imitations, we did catch several fish on the bionic ant and on purple chubbies. At one point, someone in our boat broke a purple chubby off in a bush, and it dropped out cleanly and landed an inch from the bank and made the most magnificent drift. Unencumbered by a leader, by the drag of a fly line, unconnected to the hopes of the angler, it floated proudly and perfectly for hundreds of yards, our eyes glued to it in anticipation as it traced the edge of the bank exactly. It entered an eddy where Bob and Brett were anchored, and they watched it too. We were rowing over to get it when a trout rose up and slurped it. The next time we saw Bob and Brett, they were pumped for a 21-inch brown that Brett had just caught. I asked him what he got it on it. He said a purple chubby. He had tied it on with confidence. The next day, we were aimlessly floating through a nondescript section of river when we spotted something 100 feet downstream that stood out from the other flotsam and jetsam that floats on the surface of moving water. It looked distinctly human fabricated, of human fabricated material. The way the light reflected off of its surface, its neat symmetry, even before we could see it in any detail, we could tell it wasn't natural. We rode close to it, and I saw it was my Burt's Bees lip balm, that distinctive plastic yellow tube full of scented beeswax and coconut oil, apparently rather buoyant. Ow! It must have fallen out of my pocket when I was messing with the last fish we landed. We closed in on it, nearly within reach, when a truly massive brown trout, at least 2 feet long, rolled lazily and ate the chapstick. A second later, it breached the surface, its big head thrashing back and forth, its lips glistening with moisture. Vibrant, perfect, plump, full. I suffered the rest of that day in the hot, high-elevation sun without chapstick. When I got to the small airport for my departure the next morning, I went to the one restaurant/bar/store in the airport, and they didn't have any chapstick. I had lost my chapstick, and I needed chapstick. I wrote chapstick, ? In the dust with my finger on the top of the little carousel rack of toiletries. I finally noticed the small kiosk near my gate that sold locally themed gifts and thought, maybe. I bought a purple stick of huckleberry-flavored lip balm. I struggled with the plastic seal and spun the bottom twist, and a purple chubby emerged from the top, its big poly wings popping out suddenly, its sparkle-dubbing belly just peeking over the rim. I applied it tentatively to my lips, over my vermilion border, my oral commissures, my Cupid's bow. I felt my lips begin to swell, to plump. the hyaluronic acid instantly augmenting the shape and volume of my lips. They felt full, beautiful. I kissed the air once, twice. Sexy. But my upper lip continued to swell. I felt it stretching unnaturally, growing over my bottom lip, flipping up into a grotesque flesh ski jump. I ran to the bathroom and rushed to the mirror. Oh no, I had it! The dreaded Trout pout.
I didn't hate it.